everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Brewers Spotlight. I'm your host, Ed, and today we have on tap
John Stage. Hello, everybody.
Welcome to cyberspace here in everywhere and nowhere in your town, USA, right? That's what they say in some of these more hip podcasts.
Oh, yeah, we're pretty hip.
I like to think so. We'll, well, yeah, why not? Here we go. So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been brewing, and how long have you been a member of Boss?
So I started brewing in January of 2018.
Okay.
And I decided I was boring the heck out of my friends talking about, getting in deep about different strains of yeast. And, I could talk for about 5 minutes and then they would gloss over. And so I started looking for some cool, nerdy beer dudes that I could hang out with and girls. And so I found Boss, and I think I joined at the end, one of the last meetings, like the November meeting of 2018, and then I caught the Christmas party.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's
when I started in 2018.
So tail end of 2018. So a Boss member through this wonderful pandemic here.
Yeah. I didn't catch any of the Zoom meetings, so I think I missed out on some cool talks. But I truly love coming to the meetings and just hanging out with everyone that's part of Boss. It's so fun.
It's good stuff for sure. It's for sure. So 2018, you said you had this discussion about yeast strains and whatnot. Sure. What was that first homebrewed beer that you made? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I started collecting equipment, and getting little pieces of this and a mash tun and a pot, and I bought a kit, and it came with an 8-gallon pot, just real basic stuff, and a spoon and a bottle capper and little things like that. And I brewed it in my kitchen. I did a little bit of, I steeped some grain, and then I ended up doing the boil and everything, and then cooling it off in my sink. And it was a farmhouse ale kit, and it was an extract kit. So that was my first introduction to it. But the beer, everything went pretty good, but I did the traditional, the first timers where they tell you 2 weeks in the primary, then I moved it over to the secondary, and I checked the gravity level, and it was super low when it went in. So I added a bunch of honey to the secondary. I'm taking on advanced techniques on my very first brew. And then I ended up, so I kept it in the secondary for 2 weeks, and then I bottled it, and I left it in there. After 2 weeks, it just wasn't, I put it in bomber bottles, and I think bomber bottles take a little bit longer than a 12-ounce bottle to condition. So after 3 weeks, tested it out, and man, it was garbage. But let me just tell you that my second brew was my first time that I did an all grain brew.
Okay, so wow,
that
really
one,
advanced, yeah.
Yeah, right. I didn't know any better. You know how when you're trying to figure stuff out, you don't know any better, and you work some things and you don't work some things. But that second beer also was a kit from Northern Brewer. It was an India Pale Ale. No, it was an India Brown Ale.
Okay.
So it was a brown ale with candied sugar, dark sugar, and then I did a secondary. I hopped it in the secondary. So it was real weird. You could barely taste it. It was like Palisade hops, I think, and it didn't really show true, but it was a fantastic brown ale. I totally redeemed myself, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I guess maybe you can figure this out." So my first compliment on my very first beer was, "Hey, you know what? This really tastes like beer." And my compliment on the second one was, "I think this is the best beer I've ever had." So So ever since then, I've been making brown ales, trying to chase that very first one, trying to do as well as that first all grain brew. But I don't know. Not all of them turn out,
Sometimes it happens, I get that. I get that for sure. Yeah. So yeah. So first beer, not so great. Second beer, much, much better. And you say that you're chasing the brown ale. Would you say like that's your favorite style to brew? Is that your go-to to drink? Like what are we dealing with here?
Yeah, see, I really do like brown ales because it's not quite a stout, but it's got some heaviness to it. So after I made that the best beer some people have ever had, some of my friends, I'm a brown ale guy. I got to start making brown ale. And when I put that dark candied sugar in there, I'm like, this is just like brown sugar. There's no difference in that. Huge difference between brown sugar and candied brown. So I kept throwing brown sugar in it. I'm like, 1 pound's pretty good. 2 pounds would be better. And every time I got information back, like if I gave it to a brewer or I had it judged or something, they would always say has a medical supply taste. And that was because I was using brown sugar and not using candied sugar. So I made probably 5 brown ales the wrong way. And then I finally figured it out. And now they're good again. But I've made one in a while. And maybe before the spring is over, I'll have to dive in.
Reminiscing has that effect on people.
Yes. Yeah. I do like brown ales a lot, but it depends on whatever the season is. I'm not going to drink brown ales or stouts in the summer. That's just how I am. But I'll drink the heck out of IPAs. I'll drink Hefeweizen, things like that. I really, really like those types of beers in the summer. But as it starts getting a little more fall-like, I turn to the Oktoberfests and then the brown ales and then the bigger stouts, the oatmeal stouts and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So seasonal drinker.
Yeah.
And seasonal brewer in that regard, like you go for what you're going to be wanting to drink there.
Yeah. Because my goal is not to buy beer. I can make enough beer for my supply. And every time I go over to a friend's house, I'm bringing a gallon with me and, because I'm a good friend, Ed. That's why I bring, Johnny's coming, he's bringing beer. And
I like it.
Yeah, I just think that if you're making, 5 gallons at a time, you got 50 cans of beer basically. And I mean, I'm brewing probably once every 4 weeks or so. So I'm brewing 12 to 14 times a year. And that's a lot of beer for one dude to drink. And honestly, like I had an amber ale when I was out of town. I'm like, oh man, I haven't had an amber ale in a long time. I love this. I mean, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna figure out a recipe. I'm gonna buy the supplies, and I'm gonna make an amber ale. And I made it. And then all along while it was fermenting, and all along while I was drinking it, whenever I was out of town, I would grab an amber ale. So just so I can try mine and then try other people's amber, so I could just get kind of a scope of it. And by the time my 5 gallons is gone and I've drank everybody else's around town, I'm done with amber ales for a minute.
You burned for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I burned through it and I'm done with it. So that's why seasonal beer making is good for me, because I'm just not going to drink an oatmeal stout when it's 90 degrees outside. It's just not.
Well, I'm not going to drink it outside, that's for sure. But I might have one at night on a campfire, maybe, or something.
Maybe, yeah.
But one, not it's not going to be my. I'm with you 100%.
You don't want to get too heavy with it. Yeah,
I agree. What would you say, like, as a seasonal brewer, what is your, like, is there anything that you're not interested in brewing, like, at all, where you're like, I'm never going to touch a style like that, or vice versa, like a style that you really want to try and you just haven't pulled the trigger yet?
Yeah. So I think there are so many styles out there that I've never really dove into. So there might be something that I haven't even tried. Like I don't really drink many Bocks. So that's something, but one might catch me at the right time and with the right flavor profile, and I may really be into it, and then I would make it. So no, I'm never going to say I would never brew that thing. Well, I don't know. Like, I don't have a lot of reason to brew things like a Gulch or something like that, where it's really light, super light. You know, if it's a single malt, single hop, that really doesn't interest me too much. I want to combine a couple of different malts just to see how the character shines through, a couple of different hops to see, you know, how that's layered, and then throw a weird strain of yeast into it or something. My beers don't necessarily have to fit profiles. You know, I have a lager that's fermenting right now, and I used Pilsner malt, and then I used 2 pounds of Gambrinus malt. Is it the right color? No. I used, I think I used a new yeast strain for me. I had to go out of the norm and find something, but I'm not sure what it's called. But the point is, I'll throw together a couple of grains, and then I'll throw together maybe some hops that I like that maybe don't fit within that style, just to get the beer profile that I want.
Sure.
And things that I know maybe my friends would like to drink, and instead of, you know, always trying to hit the mark just to make it within a standard. You know, I'm not German. I don't have to follow all their rules, you know.
I like it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't need to do that. That's, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I haven't really entered many competitions or anything like that. I suppose if I did, then, you know, I would take the advice of boss members who have been in it, and I've won a lot of competitions, and then try to.
There are many.
There are many. I'm really impressed with that group. There's so many people. It's a big group, and they are. There's a lot of awards. Every time there's a competition, there's just a big list of guys I know, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's real cool.
That's fun. That's fun for sure. So brew day comes. You got your recipe all laid out to make your rule breaking beer.
Yeah,
as we're talking about here. Rule breaker. What's that favorite piece of gear, piece of kit on brew day or even on bottling day that like can't do without? Like, what's that like? If this ain't working, I ain't brewing.
Oh, right. I have a Blickman Riptide pump.
Okay.
That makes the whole day so much better, because when I first did when I first started doing all grain, right from the beginning, I had some yard pump, and you know, it's for moving puddles of water to a ditch. It was nothing impressive, but I worked with that thing for a couple of years, and then I decided I was going to upgrade, because what I wanted to do was take the boiling wort and run it through that pump, and then run it through like a J tube, so that it would whirlpool my boil kettle. That's what I wanted, because I have an immersion chiller, and I thought, you know, if that immersion chiller is running water through it, and then I've got a pump that's swirling it, then I can walk away and I can go clean something, and it should, and it was great. I'm glad I made I made that adjustment. But if I don't have to move the water from the hot liquor tank to the mash tun, and I don't have to do a Vorloff, I just do a simple circulation, and then I can drain it into the boil kettle and do a fly sparge. I love the fly sparge. So all of those things are possible with that pump. I'm a huge proponent of the pump. Right. Because I just don't want to pick up, you know, 4 gallons of almost boiling water to move it around. So
with the equipment, with your beer style choices, your rebellious nature to not follow style guidelines, right. What is like a piece of advice that you would want to give to a new brewer? Like, what would you want to impart to encourage them either into the hobby or to keep them in the hobby, to inspire them? What do you got for us? I still consider myself very young in the game.
especially when you consider all the guys that are in our group. I mean, those guys have been around for a long time, and a lot of them aren't that much older than I am. They just fell in love with the hobby a lot earlier than I did.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of experience and a lot of information to give people like me. And if I were to talk to somebody that was just getting into it, I would tell them the 3 ways to get into a fermenter. And either there's extract or brew in a bag or all grain. And I think a lot of people start and end in extract, or start an extract and move into one or the other. But I think a lot of people at some point grow tired of all the equipment and just put their money into brew in a bag, some sort of brew in a bag system. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think that if somebody was like, what kind of equipment do I get? Where do I start with equipment? I would almost tell them, either spike brewing or claw hammer or a grain father, one of those things. They really seem pretty slick and easy to manipulate. Is the biggest disadvantage is moving that wet, heavy grain out of there. But once you get that figured out, it just seems like a slick way of doing stuff. I'm devoting a lot of space to equipment in my garage. I'm a 3-vessel guy with a cooler, and all of those things have to sit somewhere all week. So I just think that's the way to go.
So you gave me a beer.
Oh yeah,
you did.
Time to crack open beers.
So this there, I'll pour it nice for the camera here. Look at all that foam.
Oh boy, I was worried about the foam.
See,
what I did is I kegged it on Thursday, and then I have a filler, and so I used the filler to make that bottle. And so my worry was that all the carbonation would come out of it a couple of weeks later. But
you did all right, John.
Yeah, I had a Guinness at dinner, a real Guinness
today,
and just so I could say, all right, so that was that. What we got here? Let me try it. So
this is off of a keg. This isn't bottle conditioned. Because I'm going after the second part of this.
Yeah, I would leave the bottom. Yeah.
All right, I will do that.
Yeah, but it was kegged. There can't be actually that much yeast in it because I let the keg sit for 4 hours or so. So most of that yeast was in the first pour. But I don't know, it was pretty good to me.
Oh yeah, nice dry out Irish stout, right?
Yeah,
Guinness-ish, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this.
So I'm a big fan of Guinness. I think they do a great job, and
a wonderful beer.
Yeah, it's a wonderful beer, and even the versions that are on CO2 are super great.
Mm-hmm.
So I set out to, you can find the recipe. It's out there, the ingredients. And I had Maris Otter. So I used 8 pounds of Maris Otter. I used 2 pounds of flaked barley. And then I used a pound of roasted barley.
Okay.
So, and then I used 2 ounces of East Kent Golding at the 60-minute of the boil. And then I used SO4, the English ale yeast, to finish it up. And it had a slow start, but it finished pretty fast, which, USO5 and SO4, I think, tend to do that for me.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I have always been a proponent of flaked oats and flaked barley and flaked rye. I really think that they add a lot to the beers I make. I just love the bigger mouthfeel, and it's hard, when you're making Guinness, it's known for that big mouthfeel. So I don't know if I overdid it. I'm glad that I overdid it when it came to the flaked barley, because I like that aspect of it. When I make an IPA, I generally throw at least a pound of flaked oats in it. If it's going to be hazy, no one's going to know any better or any worse. And so I like that bigger mouth feel on a lot of my beers. They'll bring the gluten, What I've noticed in like in my brown ale, I do it with the grain, but in this beer that I'm talking about, when I'm dry hopping it, what I like to do is have like a step down. So for instance, on that brown ale, I'll use like a pound of Crystal 60, then I'll use a half pound of, I don't know, some other, like a chocolate malt, and then I'll use a quarter pound of something, and then like an eighth of a pound of roasted. So the same thing with when I do that dry hopping, I like to use like 2 of one and then 1 of another, and then half an ounce of something else. So you get that step down effect. So maybe that mosaic is high, and then the crystal or the crystal
Citra or the Amarillo.
Citra. I'm trying to think of Citra. And then, so I'll step it down a little bit. So they're not really working against each other, but they're sort of complementing each other. Yeah. That's my big secret. You might have to edit that. Like no one else has figured that out, Ed.
Indeed. No, this is nice, man. For a guy who's very anti-styles, like I think it fits pretty well.
Yeah, this is my exception. See, I break the mold, and then I create exceptions on top of it.
I like it.
And then this tastes very similar to a Guinness Stout for me. And it's nothing that I came up with on my own. It's all over the internet on how to make something that's just
like
very similar to a Guinness Stout. There's not many ingredients in it.
So yeah, no, nice head, nice lacing on the glass, well carbonated. I know you said you were worried about that, but good roast flavor to it, and not overly carbonated either, because like you can play with it a little bit too, where like the roast character and high carbonation will make the beer super dry, and borderline like prickly, like but this hits on all cylinders for me. This is good.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm still trying to figure out. Sometimes my beers come out a little sweet, and I'm like, is that a fermentation thing? But I think it's because I've been using a lot of crystal malts, and I think they add so much to the sweetness that you feel like you got a little sugar in the corner of your mouth after you drink it. So I'm trying to figure out what malts I'm going to go through next time. And I use a lot of Munich malts and things like that to sweeten it up too. But yeah, beer is fun, isn't it?
Beer is very fun. And on that note, this has indeed been your Brewer's Spotlight. Thank you, John, very much for sharing a beer with me here on this nice dreary afternoon, early evening, and cheers all. Brew a Dry Irish Stout when you get a chance. Have fun. Cheers.
Cheers, Ed. Thanks.